Yo, welcome back to the 19th hole. We're headed south of the border this week for the Mexico Championship at VidantaWorld. The Mexico Championship's been awfully kind to us over the years. We absolutely crushed it last time around. Bo's a little under the weather tonight, so we got a special guest filling in. So grab a drink and get ready to win some money. What is up, everybody? Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Be sure to like and subscribe, jingle the bell, and all that happy jazz that we talk about. Football's over, so you might as well tune into us every week. Keep winning some money. We're live every Tuesday during the golf season. I also have some written content that comes out each week, just in case you can't get enough of me on the show tonight. I'm sure I'll annoy the piss out of you by the end. Couple housekeeping bits. We announced last week that we are going to be offering our tickets to Draft Night Out. So jump over to inbetweenmedia.com. Under the events page, you can get your tickets to Draft Night Out. And also, near and dear to my heart, we have our first annual IBT Classic Golf Tournament that's kicking off the same week in Canton. So if you like football and you like getting drunk and playing golf, you should probably snag both tickets. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Bo's out sick tonight, so you get the better looking of the two of us. I'll try to work in plenty of shout outs to NorCal along the way. We got a couple players that might apply to that we'll talk about tonight. So joining us, I've got Mike from Reading the Green. Fairly certain he's my neighbor to the east. So Minnesota, keeping nice and chill up there. If you don't follow Mike and the Reading the Green team, you definitely should do that. What's happening, Mike?
You introduced me as a special guest. Am I that special anymore?
I mean,
filled in a few times for you, and I got a bunch of garbage Tom Hoagie takes, and I'm surprised you guys called me back.
I mean, the Tom Hoagie takes might make you special, really. No, what's good? What you been up to? Anything exciting going on?
Oh man, surviving. We said it's been cold. Can't ski, can't skate. A little bit of simulator golf inside. What more do you want?
Yeah, that's about the name of the game. I think we were talking about it in the pre-show. I mean, it was like -20 here today, so it's gorgeous.
So we're gonna hole up and try to hit some bombs this week, like you said, south of the border. That's what's got my week going. Maybe that and a little bit of Four Nations NHL USA versus Canada on Thursday. I'm pretty pumped for that.
It's what we have when the UFC isn't on, so we get our fight night through hockey. Basically, is the status of that.
You can't beat 3 fights in 9 seconds on Thursday. I can't believe they go back to that. So, but it's gonna be. I mean, if you're a hockey fan, if you're not a hockey fan, if you're a USA fan, I would say tune in on Thursday.
I think we live here. We got to be USA fans, right? I mean, it's just kind of by default. Isn't that the default attitude to have?
The listeners are already saying go Canada, so I think we got a little bit of a thing going on.
Yeah, the Canadian conglomerate is here. What's up, Royal? Yeah, so I don't even know if we got any Canadian people to talk about. So maybe we should just talk about Canadian hockey for our Canadian listeners. I think that's probably the best plan of attack. But other than that, not a whole hell of a lot going on in my world. We've got a few things on the program tonight. We'll do our news Niblick, which is our newer section, talk about some goings on in golf. Then we'll get into the Caddie notes, break down the course for you, get everything you need to know about VidantaWorld, formerly VidantaWorld. And then, we'll get into some betting. So, I mean, I got nothing of any real value to add at this point, so we could probably get right on into our
Let's go.
If I can find the drop. See, we're already failing. Yeah, I'm pulling a little double duty tonight, so nobody hate me for not knowing what's up. Got it. Okay, that wasn't horrible, right? Like we talked about this in the pre-show. As long as I've been doing this, I never run the show. Bo does. So as I stumble through it tonight, just be kind. Don't slaughter me in any of the comments. But anyways, yeah, News Niblick. That's our new segment. We break down some goings on. The first thing to talk about this week is Ludvig Åberg getting it done at the Genesis. Wins with 12 under, shooting a 6 under in his final round. Then promptly grabbed a few adult beverages, as he talked about at the TGL broadcast. Hopped a plane to Florida, played his doubleheader, got in there about 3:30 a.m. The guy is a machine, and pretty damn good at golf. So, yeah, is there anything this guy can't do? I mean, is there a course that doesn't work for Åberg?
Here's the take I really liked, and I got to imagine 90% of the community is kicking themselves on this. Got on here for the Farmers Insurance Open and gushed about the fit that Torrey Pines was for Ludvig. He's like, this is the absolute number 1 best golf course for him. He hits the ball long and straight, elite with his long irons. And we loved him that week. He obviously puked around rounds 3 and 4, bombs out, limps into Pebble, where we thought I backed him for a bounce back week at Pebble, still kind of sick, limps through the first couple of rounds there, and we completely forget about him. And we're supposed to act like we're surprised that the course that we loved him on a month ago, he wasn't going to show up and ball out. This is exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. And how much did you have on Ludvig this week?
Well, nothing. And what's wild about it too, is Bo and I sat on this show last week, and he posed the question about Ludvig, and I was like, dude, the guy is course proof. Like, I don't know where he's at health wise. I probably should bet him, but I mean, like I said, he just cannot. He's infallible. He truly is. And then you watch him literally less than 24 hours later playing TGL, and he's like an Adonis out there. I can't even put words on how good he just mops the floor with everybody.
Is this Bernhard longer when Bernhard was 25? I mean, he was the machine of the PGA Tour back then. Is this, I mean, this predates me. So was this kind of what we got out of him?
I mean, are you insinuating that it doesn't predate me?
No, I know it doesn't. But it's more of a question. This discussion question of just like that type of player, like you said, it's a machine. He's infallible. He's got like just absolutely perfect mechanics throughout the bag. What course can't he do this on? And it's going to be courses like a Torrey Pines where you need to be long and straight through the bag. And those are the ones where he's going to set himself apart in the field. He will get neutralized on golf courses that bring other skill sets into the mix. Obviously, he's played very well at Augusta, but Augusta allows a lot of different players to play well. So again, it's not that maybe he does go on a Scotty tear. I don't know, but I think you're right. When you get into hard golf courses that require length, he's got to be the first guy you go to.
Yeah, and I mean, we used to poke a lot of holes in some of his shorter iron play and his wedge game and stuff. I mean, not that it was ever bad so far on tour, but like that was kind of the spot that we looked at where it's like, okay, if he doesn't hit the greens, like the up and down, not great. And then all of a sudden it's like, as soon as we say that flips on a dime too. It's just like, I mean, and you got to love the guy too. On top of all of it, he just seems like a down to earth, like chill guy. He just go with the flow, likable. I mean, you know,
it's a little bit of a bummer that he came up and snatched it away from Mav, who I think generally has the respect of the tour and the community outside of the trolls that are there to hate on his family estate and whatnot, which, I'm here. I actually had a bit of an exchange with his dad on Twitter because, believe it or not, they vacationed to northern Minnesota as they were kids. And so I was just trying to pick at that a little, like, where did that come from? But I do think that Mav seems like a pretty down to earth guy, despite coming from a lot of money. And I did want him to win. I did.
And piloting his own private plane to the event. I mean,
and all that we know is that he bought that himself. And
yeah, hard.
I wouldn't be, but really, like it was kind of a bummer that it seemed like Ludvig comes out and steals it from a pretty nice dude. But Mav will have his time. No, obviously. No surprise that Mav turns around in WDs from Mexico this week. It was a big week for him, but I'm super excited for Ludvig to get the second win in a tough field, because to be the guy that he's superstar status, but the only tournament he's won is the RSM Classic a couple of years ago. does he deserve the superstar status? Well, I think this cements it that he is here and he can do it against tough fields. So I'm excited for the rest of Ludvig's season.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, on the Mav thing, I mean, Bo and I are huge Mav fans. We're always pulling for him. It was nice to see him there competing. I mean, played great golf, tough setup, tough field. And to your point, I think Mav is looking better almost every time he goes out anymore. So I think it's only a matter of time. He'll have his moments too. But yeah, the superstar status thing, I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about, because to your point, I mean, it's prior to the last week. I mean, yeah, did he deserve it? He's just, I think that he's going to win and win a lot. And I think he's just proven again that such a smooth swing, such a solid player. And he's another guy. I mean, I just said it about Mav, but with Åberg too, it's just like somehow he manages to get better every time he goes out. So I'm looking forward to seeing both those guys. But moving on, we had the TGL's first triple header. I don't know how you feel about the TGL. I, for one, am pretty into it. I think if you sit down and think of it not as golf, but as an entertainment product, I think that helps to watch. But it was pretty crazy. The Bay again, Ludvig kind of captaining that whole deal. I think Wyndham Clark is in theory, but don't tell him that. Yeah, they look unstoppable. Showed up, played the doubleheader. They're now undefeated, if I recall correctly. You got Minwoo Lee, who made his first start with them in the first of the two matches. Comes out after seeing the course only 2 hours prior, starts draining 40-foot chips. It's just that's a hell of a team. Boston continues to prove that they might be the most incompetent strategists on the TGL. Rory McIlroy throwing the hammer, which, if for any listeners not familiar with the hammer basically is a 2-hole swing tactic. You throw a towel basically, and allows you to, if you win the hole, you get double the points. Decided to throw it on a 6.5-foot putt with 1 hole remaining. So pretty brilliant move. I think it's pretty entertaining stuff. I thought the triple header was cool. I think it was some of the most competitive golf that we've seen on the TGL so far. Did you catch any of it?
I did not watch the President's Day triple header. I worked most of the day, and I just couldn't get in there. But in general, I've been in it this season. It is getting better every week. The guys are figuring out how to be entertainers. I think it was a little dry. And even from a production standpoint, they've had to figure out what's the right balance of Marty Smith with the players and whatever else is going on. They're still like, way too much Marty Smith. Bo's not here to do a Marty Smith impression, but the production value is getting better. The players are getting better as entertainers. They're changing the rules, which needed to happen. I'm a little surprised they didn't have a bunch of exhibition matches to try to figure out some of these scenarios, because, having to change the hammer rule of the season when Patrick Cantlay effectively just breaks it in the first week, saying, here's the expected value. There's basically no point in ever throwing the hammer. That stuff maybe could have been worked out, but it's getting better.
Leave it to him.
Yeah, exactly. The question, like the season is on track to be great, and guys are making big shots in big moments. Like, you can't script JT chipping in to extend the mat. Like, you just can't script that. And so that matters. The players showing up in big moments matters. I do wonder the sustainability of these stars doing this another season. I think it's a great way to get some other personalities in the mix that aren't superstar status, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it feels like this is a pace that's unsustainable. But I'm trying to get as much out of this season as possible.
Yeah, I don't want to miss our boy Bo chiming in the chat. Shout out NorCal. So we got a shout out NorCal count of 1. So if you're drinking along at home, take your shots now. And we hope you feel better soon, Bo. I'm with you. I think, you can't script some of the stuff going on. Tommy Fleetwood, if you go back and watch Tommy Fleetwood draining that 40-yard chip in OT to keep that going, I mean, that's insane. I mean, they are making some high quality pressure shots they're getting into it. They're fist bumping, they're screaming, they're yelling. I mean, JT's throwing clubs on chip ins. I mean, it's incredible stuff going on in the stadium. And, you know, I've heard rumors that they're kicking around, like maybe trying to expand it, maybe trying to get a couple more facilities. I don't know. I'm kind of like a little bit like what you said. I don't know if it's long-term sustainable. Like, I don't know if the novelty wears off. I don't know if you like infuse some more like celebrity into it or try and get a little more like entertainment, a little less golf, which kind of, I don't know. But right now I'm loving it. So we'll keep talking about it randomly. And then the last thing we were going to talk about is, and this is always more fun because Bo loves to toot his own horn, but we were going to talk about how good Mexico has been to us over the last couple of seasons. So we had a huge hit here last year on the back of Jake Knapp. We bet the whole ladder on him. We had a similar bet going with Sami Välimäki. Nailed that as well, finishing runner up. So a couple of guys that we kind of caught on to way early, and we were kind of riding. And we both got on this show last year, and we're like, this is it. This is the week. Like, these guys are going to hit. And sure as shit, Bo bet a lot, and Bo was a pretty profitable man that week. So goes to show you, we do win from time to time on this show, a little more frequently actually than time to time. But yeah, so celebration of the anniversary there.
Can you give me one bit of insight of where you came up with Jake Knapp and something called Sami Välimäki last year prior to Mexico?
So we came on to Jake Knapp. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was probably about 3 weeks earlier.
I mean, he finished third at Torrey.
I think it was, honest to God, I think we saw a social media post. Like, I'm not making this up. I think we saw a social media post with him, and Bo was making fun of his hair. And then we started researching him.
Pretty dumb.
Started kind of following him. And I mean, I think we made the joke that he can't be within 100 yards of a school several times. I mean, he just looks like a dirt ball. But yeah, no, we just started following him, and we were kind of like, all right, this makes sense here. Doesn't have to worry about the penalty of missing the fairways. Doesn't necessarily have to even bring the putter with him. You just bomb it out there, hit some decent wedge shots for the week. And it lined up really well for him. And then with Sami Välimäki, there's a couple guys that I'm looking at this week that are actually really similar player type to what he was doing leading in. We were looking at some of the iron play, especially from some of the other tours, and Välimäki has a tendency to get really hot. The limiting factor for him, and we saw it a little bit on the final day, was he has a really high ball flight. And so we kind of were saying about him, like, hey, this is an elite iron player. As long as the winds stay moderate, we don't have to deal with his high. I mean, he hits a high fade bordering on a slice. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where everything kind of aligned. A couple of long shots we were on. And yeah, sometimes you can just kind of trust the numbers, trust a little bit of the eye test, and go to town, go to the betting window.
I love that. Sammy's got a golf swing like all of us. Got a little bit of early extension, doesn't quite get his hips through the ball, and he hits these big high slices. And to your point, like, he made a couple up and downs last year that were absolutely insane. Putter got hot, and that's fun. It's just, but it makes it seem like it's, hey, any of us can play good. Just need the right course and the right day.
Yeah, he's a relatable guy.
Yeah,
even his build, I'm watching him, I'm like, I guarantee you this guy would rather have a dozen bush lights than actually be focused right now.
Amstel. He's from Finland. He's probably drinking something Scandinavian.
Yeah, we gotta bring it back to the trashy Midwest. That's the only way that I make him even more relatable to me. But yeah, no, it's it's what we do. It's what you guys do too. It's like you find these diamonds in the rough, and you pull the trigger when they make sense, and that's I don't know. Luck favors the prepared, really.
There you go.
So, anyways, that's all we got for news this week. We'll get on over to the caddy notes. This course is, in my opinion, not the most terribly exciting thing on earth, but we'll talk about it a little bit. So, see you after the drop here. it just gets me in the, I'm pumped now. I'm just ready. All right. So we got the Mexico Championship down in Vallarta, Mexico. It's at the VidantaWorld, formerly Vedanta Vallarta. Par 71, yardage is around 74.50 and some change. They can flex it out a little bit. It's a pretty long course. Fairways, greens, we're dealing with some pass pylon grass. We don't see that often or at all outside of this event. Weather, we're looking low to mid 80s, occasional breeziness. I would be concerned about keeping an eye on that. The wind conditions, it can turn quickly and it can get pretty gusty, pretty tough to deal with. We got, I believe, 144 players in the field, top 65 and ties make the cut. Like I've said in the lead-in, the course itself, nothing terribly spectacular. It is riddled with bunkers and water hazards that really don't do a whole lot, but add aesthetics to the course. They really don't tend to come terribly into play unless you're way out of position, which brings me to the next point. Fairways are pretty damn wide and pretty easy to hit here. So if you're that far out of a position, you got problems to begin with. Greens are going to be pretty receptive. It's pass pylon's kind of a unique surface in that it's kind of soft and like I said, it's receptive is the best way to probably put it. It tends to keep the ball close to where it lands. Course is, like I said, it's long. You got three par fours that are over 500 yards, 2 par fives over 600 yards. And the third par 5 is nearing 600. I believe it's playing at 585 this week. So flat and wide open. The rough's easy. Not a whole lot more to say on that. We definitely need guys that make birdies and don't give them back. It's kind of you're going to hear a lot of narratives around. It's like a bomber's paradise. I think that has proven of the 4 times the event's been here. I think that's been fairly well proven. However, I think that there is some edge to be had with some of these guys that have a little bit shorter off the tee game, but have a very lights out, accurate long iron game. So I did change my approach a little bit this year in my modeling. Last year was very, very heavy bomber centric, with the exception of a couple of oddballs that we threw in. But that's who we were targeting. This year, I think I've got plenty of distance baked into the model. But I did go back and really focused in on some of the accuracy and proximities from like 175 plus and out. Just looking at guys that really can offset a little shorter driver and excel with some of the longer irons. So what say you on VidantaWorld, sir?
I mean, you did an excellent job summarizing that. Everybody's going to play Link this week. And we've had a lot of fun watching guys mash it around this golf course. Like you said, it was last year in the Valimaki and Nap down the stretch. Those guys were just launching bombs anywhere they wanted off the tee. And frankly, in the beginning of that round, it was mostly not in the fairway, despite how easy it is to hit these fairways. They were all over the place and it didn't really do anything. So your point of just hit the ball as far as you can is definitely the place to start. And I've been picking at a few guys that are climbing up in some of the research that I'm doing that I know are very much not bombers. And we can get into some of the plays later. So I think it's interesting if you can find a little bit of leverage to exactly to your point, a guy that's going to play well from 200 to 225 yards, or even maybe bucket 175 to 200. You can find plenty of guys that are just hit great 4 irons and 3 irons and 5 woods that into pass palm greens that aren't going to roll out all that much can be just as good as someone who's going to be hitting 6 irons and 5 irons. So I think there are a couple of sneaky plays there. Around the green play is pretty much forgettable this week. You're going to have a super high green and regulation rate because these greens are gigantic. And to your point, the ball's not going to roll very far. So I think you can forget about that. And then like most of these basically non-bent grass, non-POA greens, you get a neutralizing factor with bad putter. So you can see Team No Putt do all right this week because the greens are going to run a little bit slower. And while they're big, you're not going to end up with a ton of 50, 60, 70 foot putts here. So I would basically fade anything around putting stats, basically anything around the green, and find those elite ball strikers from length and then plenty of distance in your model.
No, 100% agree with you, and it's funny. I'll little spoil the lead in here a little bit, but one of the guys that I looked at, Kurt Kitayama, is a prime example, right? Where not a very good putter. However, his best putting surface happens to be paspalum. Well, why is it paspalum? Because it's like the most forgiving, neutralizing surface, and he's he's almost a full stroke better on paspalum than he is on any other surface on tour.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. He usually loses about 0.3 of a stroke on paspalum. He gains almost 7/10 of a stroke. So it's funny. It's the only surface he gains on, which is wild. But
I'll offer one more bit of strategy this week. You were starting to say this in the intro about the winds picking up and being variable. The weather-wise, it's not an obvious wave stack, but credit the RTG team for digging this one up this afternoon. Almost a full stroke advantage AM stacks to PM stacks at this golf course over the last 5 years. And for that reason, that the wind just tends to pick up. So if you are going to do any amount of wave stacking, I would favor guys going off in the morning, if at anything, just to beat some of that wind. Otherwise, I think the temps are going to be pretty mild the entire week. So that's if you want to find another edge, I would say maybe favor the AM guys.
No, that's a good call. Yeah, no, absolutely. I wasn't aware of that. So that's a good thing to throw in there too. And I mean, we were talking a little bit again in the pre-show. It's just kind of, this is one of those events where there aren't a whole lot of huge name guys here. So you're looking for every edge you can get, and anything that you can isolate that'll give you a little bit of an edge with some of these guys that are a little lesser proven and all that. So yeah, take the advantage and swing a little bit more AM stacks, especially if you're doing DFS. Like, never hurts to have, X amount of rosters dedicated to it.
Exactly. It's a way to narrow your pool, and you find the right mix that way.
No, absolutely. No, that's a great call. I love that. So, all right. Well, without further ado, if I can manage to find our next drop. Somebody's moving stuff around in here. I love it. Love it. Yep. Yeah. Dance.
Let me know what you need me to do.
Beatbox.
Sing.
Perhaps. Yeah, no, I'm loving this. I am scrolling with nothing. So we found her. The show must go on. We found her. Everybody stop panicking. See, train wreck. Oh well, shout out NorCal. God, that's the second one. Thought maybe we were going to get through it with minimal shout outs, but nope, they're coming fast and furious. All right, so getting into betting some golf this week. So kind of kicking it off at the top with some of the favorites. We've got Akshay at the top at plus 1,400, followed by Rasmus Højgaard plus 1,800, Sam Stevens plus 2,200, Patrick Rodgers plus 2,200, Kitayama plus 2,200, and then we start getting into plus 25 and higher. Of those top guys, anybody you're looking at here?
No. I mean, if you go across, if you're going to look at the entire card, I would say, yes, you're going to, my model, I got Kitayama. So do I want to take him 22-1? I guess if I'm building out the whole card. The wonderful thing about the great state of Minnesota is that I can't, but I would be strictly 80 to 90 plus this week. Just because I think you're going to get in a situation like you did last year. There's the high end talent mostly dipped out of this field. So I want long shots this week, but if I had to pick from this group, I got Kitayama in my model number 2. Obviously been playing very well, but you talk about a guy that is second from 175 to 200, 6th in the field from 200 to 225. So a great long iron player. We know he has plenty of distance, and he has just fantastic course history here. Third in the field strokes gained at Vedanta. First in the field at a comp that I've seen, TPC Twin Cities. No, not a homer take, just typically a golf course where you need to hit the ball well from long distance. He's played well there as well. So, if Bo was here, he'd talk about all of these run-ins he had with Kurt as a kid and why he should win this event. But I think Kurt's a very good play. Not a great, he's probably going to be the highest owned in DFS. But sure, 22-1. I think that's maybe fine for Kurt.
Yeah, I think with Kitayama, he rated number 1 in my model. So right up at the top. Just like you, overall approach over the last 36 rounds, as far as this field goes, I got him coming out second. What I liked about him is he also, over the last 36, is leading this field in bogey avoidance. So I thought that was another good stat. The way that he scores, I don't normally love him in something that could potentially be a birdie fest, but the way that Kurt scores is typically on these long par 4s and longer par 5s, which we already talked about. Most of the scoring holes are in that, within those parameters. So number 1 in par 5 scoring, you touched on it with some of the proximity buckets from about 175 to 225. He truly is, at least pound for pound, maybe the best approach player in this field. So I love Kitayama here. I'll give Bo his credit with the shout out NorCal on Mr. Kitayama. I don't usually bang the drum for him. I wish he was a little longer. This is pretty short for somebody as volatile as him. But
I don't know what he was on Sunday when the books released the odds, but I got to imagine Mavs WD just caused a whole bunch of this stuff just to evaporate at the top.
Yeah, I think I wish I had asked Bo when I was talking to him earlier, because I know Bo got him before Mavs WD. I'm going to guess he was probably somewhere closer to 28, 25, 28, somewhere in there, which is a little more appealing. I just think the problem with Kitayama and risk versus reward here, the numbers are telling me to bet him. I'd rather have him on the card, even at 22-1. Than not have him on the card, but you gotta know what you're signing up for. Kitayama's equally likely to be slamming the trunk Friday afternoon. So volatile play, but he makes sense here.
Yeah, he does, and I don't even hate plus 210 top 10 this week. So you could ladder him up a little bit and still squeeze a little value there. The other two guys in that group, obviously Rasmus had a really tough week last week, played terrible on Thursday, ended up not making the cut, might have finished dead last. Probably a pretty good course for Rasmus. I don't need to break down all the stats. Generally pretty long off the tee. I also like Nikolai as well, which I know he's a little bit further down. But one nugget on Sam Stevens, Patrick Rodgers, heard this on Andy Lack's show earlier this week. This is week 7 for these guys. And at some point, you got to imagine someone like Sam Stevens, who has been playing very well this season. Patrick Rodgers had the good week last week, has played pretty well at Vedanta in the past. But 7 weeks in a row is a lot. Maybe not a ton of West Coast travel, but now you're zipping down to Mexico. So it's definitely open for some kind of regression there for those guys, just out of pure exhaustion.
Yeah, and I have a hard time. Sam Stevens, actually, like between him and Patrick Rodgers, I probably have a little more faith and trust in Sam Stevens just based on body of work lately. Patrick, like total body of work over the last probably 12 months. Patrick Rodgers, I think we kind of saw what happens to him when he is in contention, just kind of gracefully bowed out at the Genesis. So I think at that 22 number, I think Kitayama is the surest thing out of the three of them that are at that number. So I'm definitely gonna ride with him this week. You can tell I'm apprehensive a little bit because, like I said, he's volatile, but the course fits great. So he'll make it on the card. I have interest in Akshay a little bit. I'm debating, and the reason I like Akshay here is Akshay just has a lot of different shots he can hit with his irons and a lot of different value from the proximities we're looking at. And in my opinion, he gets even more creative when the conditions deteriorate. So if we get a weather report that's saying that it's going to get a little bit more dicey with the wind, I think the value of Akshay increases a little bit at that point. And I think sometimes we have to mitigate some of the risk with Akshay off the tee. But that here shouldn't be as big an issue. This is wide open. So I kind of like that I kind of like him. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, bit of the Will Zalatoris effect here. Are you ever concerned that he's just going to break in half under conditions?
The wind could just take him away altogether.
Yeah.
No,
but I agree with you from a play standpoint. I think 18-1 is really short. And I think if he does, maybe he does come in highest owned in DFS and he is in that 30% range. It's just, I don't have to go to Akshay this week to do well, either on the betting side or on the DFS side. So it's not that I don't think he could get it done. He was fourth here a couple of years ago, and he has a 9th and a 13th at Torrey in the last 2 years. And so he's got some good relative history. Again, wouldn't be surprised, but I won't be going there betting or DFS wise.
Yeah. And I mean, just to touch on the DFS point real quick on Akshay, I think the one thing that's always stuck with me over the years with DFS is like when you're talking about the top salaried guy, when you're putting him in your lineup, you're saying you think he's going to win. I mean, to get the return on that investment in your lineups, you're saying that you think Akshay Bhatia is going to win the tournament. And I'm saying I think there's a path to him winning the tournament, but I'm not sure enough to roster him. And if I'm not sure enough to roster him, that probably will lead me to not bet him at 14-1 either. But like I said, I'll check the weather and kind of make my determination later this week. I mean, your course comps and the course history help build the case for Akshay, but it's a lot to pay, and both on the betting side and the DFS side. So getting kind of into the 25-1 and further. We got Taylor Moore, Steven Yeager, Michael Kim, Ben Griffin, Bo Hostler, Aaron Rye, Harry Hall, Alex Smalley, and Nicholas Norgard. And then Kevin Yu rounds out that 25 to 35 range. Not a lot of interest in a lot of guys in there. For me, Harry Hall, I've just got a thing right now where I'm FOMO betting him every week because I think he's one of those guys that can get crazy hot. He he makes birdies in bunches. I think he's number one in this field for birdie or better rate over the last 36 rounds. So he's probably one of the guys I've got more interest in at 30-1. He's got a few holes in his game as far as this type of setup is concerned. He's not super long off the tee, and he's also not super accurate from around that 200 range. So there's some cause for concern, but like I said, he'll probably get my FOMO bet before kickoff. And then Alex Smalley actually is dropped since I bet him at 40-1. He's down to 35-1. Smalley rated out pretty well for me this week, coming in third in my model. And that part of why he rated out so well for me is, again, the longer scoring holes. He's number 3 in this field for those long par 5s. He also rates out in the top 10 for the 200 plus bucket range and proximity. He's number 7 there. Also has a pretty decent game from 100 to 125 out. So you do have some polar opposite with some of the approach buckets here. You got a lot of long approaches. You've also got a lot of those shorter wedge 9-iron range shots that these guys have got to hit. So I kind of like the balance he has on both sides of his bag. And like I said, I'm not alone. He's already slid 5 points in the last 2 hours. So yeah, Alex Smalley at 35. I still like that number on him. I loved him at 40. I like him better. Or I don't love the 35. I like him better at 40, but I would still get it.
Current RTG model, which is a measure of mostly public sentiment around players, has Alex Smalley as the most mentioned player so far this week from a DFS standpoint. Over 50% of the experts that we follow also like Smalley from a DFS as a DFS play. So to your point, getting a lot of steam doesn't mean you can't get some value out of him on the betting side. Other guys in this range. So this is where I started to pick at a couple of guys who are not particularly long, but have either had good history here or are excellent players from those 175 to 225 buckets. So the first would be, actually, because I put so much weight on long iron play, first in the model above Kitayama was Kevin Yu, who we said was here at 35-1. He is probably if you thought Kitayama was the top player from those proximity buckets, I think Kevin Yu actually might be first in the field, 175 to 200, fifth in the field, 200 to 225. But right in the middle of the pack from a driving distance standpoint. So that this guy is an elite long iron player. Hasn't been playing, he did play at the Genesis Invitational, did finish the sneaky T17 there, has a sixth at Torrey, but has not played at Vedanta. So if you want to just basically go on a stat profile that we think has a path to success, I think Kevin Yu is in play. And then the other guy, we've talking about guys that don't hit the ball very far. Aaron Rai has some nice history here, finishing T24. He was cut in 23 and then finished T19 and 24. So he does have some good history at the Mexico Open. But another guy that's just a really strong player from on the long iron side, I think I have him a little bit further down, but just like almost bottom of the field from a driving distance standpoint. So again, I'm a little surprised, and I think you're not going to sneak him under the radar single digit owned because he's been playing way too good the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I also could consider Aaron Rai here, either on the betting side, maybe a DFS play. I just don't love it if he's going to get close to 20% ownership.
Yeah, Aaron Rai didn't land on my radar this week. I should maybe take another look at him. I mean, he's been playing some sneaky good golf. Kevin Yu scares me. I agree with you. Like, I think he fits the course. Man, he's hard to get right. I mean, you're right. His last two starts have been really good, waste management and then a Torrey, but man, he's hard to get right.
For sure. And I think 35 to 1. I mean, Kevin Yu's the kind of guy that we should be nailing at 100 to 1. Yeah. That's what we're used to. And I know he won last fall, but that's the Kevin Yu that I'm probably not really realistically playing until he's back at that point. 35 is way too short.
Yeah, it seems pretty short. Somebody staying in this mid range. Just got a couple more guys. I know you mentioned him of the brothers Højgaard. Nikolai, for me, actually fits rated out better. Actually popped to number 2 in my model based on the last 36 starts. What's interesting about him is he's a very similar archetype to Kitayama in terms of where he excels and where he's volatile. And so as I was looking at the two stat, I mean, they're right on top of each other in terms of driving distance. They're right on top of each other in terms of some of the approach buckets. As a matter of fact, from that, in my model, from the 175 to 200, Kitayama's number 1, Højgaard's number 2, and then the 200 plus range, Kitayama's number 4, Højgaard's number 5. So the hiccups with Højgaard tend to be on some of the par 5 scoring, which is kind of strange given that he's so good at approach from those longer distances. I think that some of that will probably get a little more mitigated here, just given how wide open this place is. I think he's a little bit longer than Kitayama is as well. And what I keep kind of going back to as I was writing him up this week too is if you look at the two players back to back, it's like, okay, I'm willing to pay 22 for Kitayama. Why wouldn't I be willing to get almost double the odds with Højgaard, who I think is a very similar player? So I talked myself into that one real easy. I think that I think long term, I think that he maybe is getting a little overshadowed by Rasmus at this point. But I think Nikolai historically is a pretty damn solid player too. So I don't want to miss him. It's a much better number than his brother too. Getting down there, Bo had a shout out in our show notes, I think, of a couple of guys. Olesen at 45 to 1 and Justin Lauer at 65 to 1, which were, I think Justin Lauer, pretty good fit. I'm not super pumped to bet him outright. Might look at like a top 20 number on him if we can. And then outside of that, I had, Chan Kim has a way to scramble better than anybody else around. Not that comes into play here. However, If the weather does change a little bit, he's kind of a late addition. If I'm seeing some weather changes, Chan Kim's a little scrappier a player, so 70-1 on him. Not a horrible number. Has a pretty good iron game from time to time. So that's all I had in that kind of mid range.
Yeah, let's pick off a few other guys here. I would love to see Aldrich Poitgeter just continue to show up here on the PGA Tour. We had a lot of fun watching him at the Farmers Insurance Open, just not able to squeak it out against Harris English. So we know that he is an absolute bomber of the golf ball. I just would love to see him on TV for the week. The guy that I've been trying to check out in this range that just really hasn't played a ton this year so far, Erik van Rooyen. This is my homer take. University of Minnesota graduate, has played up at a few tournaments in the area over the years. Erik van Rooyen, pretty long off the tee, real strong player from into the greens from those proximity buckets that we're interested in. But not a ton else that really interests me. He has played well here in the past. I believe that he was T8 in 2024 at the Mexico Open, but hasn't really had much form to speak of at all this season. So stat wise, I think he does make sense. He's won in Mexico before, clearly like comfortable playing in this part of the world. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that's 55. Maybe would like to see EVR a little longer, but I do think statistically he would be a fit here. Then the other guy in this range, similar to Aaron Rai, that I was starting to dig on a little bit was Carson Young. Carson Young has some pretty good history here as well. 8th in 2024, 15th in 2023. He's been not really much form to speak of this year, but a dude that can definitely have those pop putting weeks. He can lose 4 or 5 strokes in 2 rounds on the greens, and he can have 6 to 8 stroke weeks very easily. I always go back to the fact that this dude lit up a U.S. Open qualifier in South Carolina last couple of years ago, going 62, 63 to just blitz the field. So he's not long at all, very accurate, but he can get the ball in the hole. So if you start to lean specifically on like birdie and eagle percentages, he's a guy that I could like that sort of fits that anti-bomber narrative. And 60 is not a bad number for Carson Young.
No, to your point, like he does pop every now and then. Like he gets hot and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's Carson Young. And, you know, they put him up as C Young on all the leaderboards.
Yeah.
Like,
I immediately go to Wikipedia. Yeah, go to Wikipedia. Is Carson and are they brothers?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, 100%. I don't hate that call at all. As a matter of fact, he kind of popped in the lower 40 guys, or I should put it the other way. He's in the top 40 in my model. So, I mean, it's not an absurd take by any stretch. And I think that's a good number for him. If he gets hot, to your point, he could definitely storm this place. So
I got one other guy here, and it's because listener Steve has tipped me off and reminded me that I did pop in first look on my one and done league. I did pop in Michael Thorbjornsen. The difficult thing is just a dude that can match the golf ball. I got him 15th in the field and driving. And he's shown some ability to make birdies in bunches at the end of last year. He just doesn't have much data for me to be looking into right now. I have him way down in my model. And then from just a recent play standpoint, he's played one event this year, was cut awful week on the greens at Torrey Pines at the Farmers Insurance Open, finished 74th. At the Phoenix Open, was cut at the American Express as well. So again, no real form to speak of. I would like to see him at 100-1. I don't know that 55 is a great number. That's why I think it might be kind of fun in my one and done pool. I need to shake things up a little bit. Why not just gamble on someone to maybe top 5?
I got to be like one of the few analysts out here not drinking the Thorbjornsen Kool-Aid. I don't get it. I understand he was a good collegiate player. I totally see that. I understand. But I mean, what's he done?
He shot 4 under in one round last year. No, I get it. He was an elite college player that, give these guys some time. I mean, they're not all going to be Ludvigs, right? But I think you're right. I think we kind of want that. Is we want to see those guys win PGA Tour U and then show up on the PGA Tour and crush it. And unfortunately, we've had Nick Dunlap and we've had Ludvig, and so we've had a couple of success stories. But yeah, Michael Thorbjornsen might need a little more time to simmer.
I got one later on, a little deeper shot. Actually, we're getting into the longer shots. Former teammate of Mr. Thorbjornsen. So we'll talk about him, and I like him significantly better. So at much longer odds. So if you don't have anybody else in the mid range, we can definitely cruise right into the long shots. I will kick us off if I can find where I just lost my notes. Okay. So somebody that I think has potential at 75-1 to just go nuclear with their irons is Antoine Rosner. And it's a guy that really we don't talk about very often at all. Definitely has a lot more success on the other tour. But what's interesting about him is he's got 33 measurable rounds in this model. And of those, he rates out number 2 in strokes gained approach. He also rates out number 4 in opportunities gained. I don't normally buy into that statistic a ton. It gives you a good feel for birdie looks is all that one really does. So we're looking at a guy who is really good on approach and very accurate, giving himself a lot of looks at birdies. He also happens to be pretty damn good from the proximity buckets we're looking at, specifically, again, that 175 to 200 range. And again, he's another guy that's got a pretty good short iron wedge game. He rates out 6th in that 200 bucket, and he rates out 7th in that 1 to 125 range. So he's definitely a guy that if he shows up with the elite iron skill set that he has, and he's bordering more on a bomber, he won't rate out that way, but he averages about 318 off the tee. So he's not a short hitter by any stretch. So we got pretty good distance out of Rosner, and like I said, great iron play all over the planet. Just hasn't had a great run on the tour as of late. So I think those stats would be significantly higher, especially when you look at his last 2 starts. Kind of bombed at the Amex, and then only managed to gain 1.9 strokes at the Farmers. Not to belabor him too much, but this is a guy that typically averages almost 4 strokes gained on approach every time he tees it up. So just kind of having a little downtime. So hopefully he bounces back here. He could be kind of a good value at that number.
I like that. I did not have a lot in this range. I think you're going to see a number of things in the public, in the public channels on Chris Goddard this week, Chris Ventura, Lanto Griffin, Alejandro Tosti, a couple of guys that, with the exception of maybe Griffin, can really move it off the tee. So totally fair plays. Like if you want to go out and bet every single golfer 80-1 or longer that hits it far, go for it. But I probably wouldn't go on any of those guys, I think, on the DFS side, but I think you'll see a lot of chatter on them.
Well, then I'll throw out 2 more, and then we'll yank a name out of the hat, and we'll get on out of here. But so I got somebody that I think you're aware of from Stillwater, Minnesota, in Frankie Sabin at 90-1. This is, again, another kind of FOMO better. I've done number shit with $5 type of bet. Very, very live to pop off. We've been talking about him the last few weeks. I know you guys have him on your radar. I've seen a couple of the RTG guys playing him in DFS. So Frankie Sabin might not be a horrible $5 or $10 bet at 90-1. And then the guy that I alluded to from Stanford is actually just signed the first brand ambassador deal with Sunday Red and Tigers brand. It's Carl Phillips from Australia. So he was the Korn Ferry Rookie of the Year, averages about 327 yards off the tee. Very high greens and regulation percentage on the Korn Ferry last year, clipping around 73%. Also in the top 10 for putting. Top 10 for birdie conversion rate. And then one thing that I really, really liked about him is he is number 1 ranked in overall birdie or better on par 4s and par 5 combined. So just a guy that fits the type of guy we're looking for the course. Very accurate on approach, very long off the tee. So he's definitely a guy to take a look at. We're getting him around 120-1, and this guy's no joke. I mean, this is a guy probably not on a lot of people's radar. pretty reasonably priced in DFS too. I think I got him for $6,600. So not a bad way to round out the bottom of your lineup if you're looking to do a little more in the 8s in DFS. So yeah, take a look at Carl Billups. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. He's a hell of a player on the Corn Ferry, and we'll see what he does this week.
Well, down in that range, a couple other names that I am interested in. Obviously, things get kind of all over the place when you're dipping into triple digits, but Will Gordon, not super high, got him 45th in my model, but pretty good long iron player, decent driving distance. I think you could do worse with Will Gordon at 110 to 1. He did just come off a T7 at Torrey Pines in the Farmers Insurance Open. If you're looking at those comps, and then elsewhere down here, I don't know. I mean, I am really curious. Well, I guess the only other guy that would be kind of fun to just ride the wave a little bit is Will Chandler. Only redeeming quality. I got him number 1 in the field in strokes gained, slow greens. So Team No Putt generally thriving on those slow greens. Will Chandler, the Monday Q at the Phoenix, 200 to 1, might be kind of fun to ride some of that magic. You didn't mention Jake Knapp, and you didn't mention Sammy Valimaki. Jake's obviously a little bit further higher up the board, but Sammy's down here at 200. Any reason to go back to the well?
Yeah, I think you can make all the same arguments we made on both of them last year. I think Valimaki probably I would avoid. I think we struck when the iron was hot. Like, he kind of was showing some signs of life. He came in there kind of in form, kind of trending the right way. And I think, to be honest, it's gambling for a reason. I think we got a little bit lucky with him. Jake Knapp, the Jake Knapp is the prototypical guy that we talk about almost every week, right? Where, like, if you show up and you get the good Jake Knapp, he could definitely come out here and win. I mean, it's like when Cam Champ tees it up. It's like, if you get Cam Champ firing on all cylinders, he wins golf tournaments.
Rarely.
But I mean, and Jake Knapp is kind of, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, fallen into that category a little bit. Like, you need Jake Knapp to play pretty damn good golf for Jake Knapp to win a tournament now, in my opinion.
For sure. Well, if you want to get real crazy, there is a player down here at 500 to 1 that has a 57 in a professional golf tournament last year. Cristobal de Solar, 500 to 1, 25 to 1 to top 10. He was, I believe that I lost where I put all my Cristobal CDS stats, but I believe he was top 40, top 50 here last year, made the cut. He can make birdies. 500 to 1, 25 to 1, top 10 would be certainly even that's fun enough for Cristobal de Solar. So have we exhausted the board here in a wide open Mexico Open?
I think we've done what you have to do at the Mexico Open, and that's talk about as many guys as you can, because you got a buckshot approach it a little bit this week. And like, I know we don't talk a ton about DFS, but I'll round out our content with the DFS. Like, I don't know how you're feeling on DFS this week, but this is a tournament where I have a larger than average player pool. I isolate a couple of guys I want to see in the majority of lineups, but I would play in the lower cost entry tournaments with more entries in them, and try and get as many of these guys as you can, as many different, like, I guess, groupings as you can. Play some of the tee time splits, find an edge, do an all bombers one, do an all accuracy one.
It's a really good week to go find a 150 max that you like and go run out 50 lineups with 10 different stacks, because there's going to be a narrative that's pretty extreme that's going to show up. So that's definitely on my radar this week. I do have a question for you, though. I need some help. I am in 2 survivor pools. They're called the Stones pools, and you got to make the cut. You got to make the cut every week to survive. Last guy holding the bag is going to take down a couple G. So I need 2 locks for the cut this week. 144 person field, top 65. I can guarantee you that I haven't used anybody here, so the whole field is wide open, and it's kind of tough because I don't really think Akshay is a lock to make the cut. And so you can dip down there. Do you got a guy or two that you would say, I feel really good about this player playing the weekend?
I feel really good about Alex Smalley making the weekend. I feel about 70%. 70% Kitayama makes the weekend, and if he makes the weekend, I think he wins. Like, I think that's the path that he's going to be on. Dude, honestly, that's a really tough question. I think Alex Smalley, I think I have the most faith in making the cut of some of these kind of bigger name guys, if you will. And then I actually kind of like your take on like Aaron Rye or EVR. I don't think, like I said earlier, I don't think either one of them wins, but I think make the cut. I think they've got that experience level and like that, just kind of even their average game's good enough to get through the cut.
For sure. Yeah, good call.
So that'd be my 2 cents. We have one last part of the show. I don't know if you are familiar with the hat. So we made a joke once that we were on such a bad streak that I would have better luck pulling a name out of a hat. So thus the hat segment was born. The hat gets a little wild. The hat this week has selected number 21 in my model. So number 21 in my model this week is Adam Svensson. So a guy that we did not talk about at all, who is 120th in driving distance, 82nd in birdies or better gained. So Adam Svensson, you are the latest victim of the hat. Sorry about the jinx, my friend.
I think I like Jesper Svensson a little better this week than Adam, for what it's worth.
Maybe the hat meant that.
Well, good luck. How much money you got to throw on it?
On the hat bet? Oh,
Yeah,
the hat bet's going to get $1 this week.
Yeah. Just to say you did it. There you go.
Oh, the jacked up thing is that Svensson's it's 65 to 1. It's not even good odds.
Don't love that.
Anyways, well, hey man, thanks, Mike. Been a pleasure. Good to meet you finally in person. Let everybody know where to find you, and we'll get on out of here.
Yeah, RTG Podcast DFS on X. We have a YouTube channel, Reading the Green. We do shows once a month for DFS previews. We've toned it down to just the big events, but we do run out on our feed a model every week that measures public sentiment around players. It can help you avoid some chalk or maybe even find a sneaky pick that everyone's talking about. Yeah,
very, very good info. Like I follow these guys myself and check their posts every week. So good stuff over there. So if you don't follow them, jump on, and good group of guys and good info to get. So appreciate you as always. Hopefully we can get you back on. Maybe me, you, and Bo will get together next time and really chop it up. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in the 19th Hole Live. We'll catch you next Tuesday. Like, subscribe, jingle the bell, all that happy jazz. And hopefully Bo is feeling better next week, and you can see both of our beautiful faces. All right, everybody have a good night.